Hi, church. This week, as we continue to look at some of the spiritual practices that encourage growth in our lives, I want to start by looking at the discipline of community. Now, you might think community shouldn't really take discipline. Shouldn't that just be fun? Well, do you have a family? Is it always fun? I love my family, and we, for the most part, get along really well. But sometimes there are hard things that have to be dealt with and hard things that we go through. And we still have to persist in those things. In Colossians chapter 3, verses 15 and 16, it says, "Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ richly dwell within you, with all wisdom, teaching and admonishing one another with psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing with thankfulness in your hearts to God." Paul is saying that we, as members of Christ's body, have been called into one body. And part of the function of that body is to teach, to admonish, to encourage one another. And in this passage in particular, it talks about using music to do that. But there are other ways that we can participate in community. At our church, as you know, life groups are a really big thing. That is a way to get involved in community. Community can start at a service at church, but it can't end there. In order to truly develop this ability to live with one another, do life together with a sense of transparency and with a sense of accountability, there has to be more than just the worship services. So joining a life group is one way. Even if you're not able to be part of a life group, we still need to be intentional about community. And so this week, I'm going to be encouraging us in the written devotions to think about the different one another's of the Bible and to put those into practice. So that's my challenge for you today. Think about somebody that God has placed in your Christian community, and then think of a way to reach out to them with one of the one another's of the Bible. Love one another, that's pretty broad. You can find a lot of ways to show love. Encourage one another. You could send a note or send a text. Be hospitable to one another. Can't really invite people so much over to our homes right now, but maybe you can send somebody a meal, or think of another way to practice hospitality, that love of what the Bible talks about, love of strangers, but we'll think about it this time in just love of those within our community. So community is part of a discipline. It is not it's not optional in the Christian life, unless God has placed you stranded alone on a deserted island. Even for those of us who, because of age or ill health, are more isolated, we can still practice community. We can still pray for one another. We can still find ways to encourage one another. Sometimes people say, but I don't feel like I have a community. And I would encourage you to reach out, to make it your goal this week to reach out to one person, to practice the one another's for one person. And maybe community for you will start there as you begin to focus on others. I'd love to hear from you. You can send me an email about what you're doing to enhance your community or any questions that you have. Let's be the body of Christ so that the world will see our love for one another and will be pointed to Him.